On my 70th birthday, I asked my son for just one thing, dinner together. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Dad, I'm too busy tonight." I tried to understand. I even told myself that children have their own lives. But when I walked into the restaurant alone, I saw my son sitting at a beautifully decorated table with his wife and her mother. What happened next made the entire restaurant go silent. I turned 70 on a Thursday. I had never been someone who expected expensive gifts or big celebrations. After all, at my age, you learned that the most valuable things in life aren't wrapped in paper. I only wanted to spend a few hours with my son. So, that morning, I called him and said, "Son, would you have dinner with me tonight? Just the two of us?" There was a long pause before he answered, "Dad, I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. I really can't tonight." I forced a smile even though he couldn't see it. "That's okay," I told him. "Maybe another time." He thanked me for understanding and hung up. I spent the afternoon alone in my house looking through old photographs of him. There was one picture of him at 8 years old, sitting on my shoulders at the beach. Another showed him graduating from college. I remembered every sacrifice I had made for that boy, but I never regretted a single one. That evening, I decided I wouldn't sit at home feeling sorry for myself. I put on my best suit and went to the restaurant where my son and I used to celebrate special occasions. I told myself I'd have a quiet dinner, order my favorite meal, and go home. But the moment I walked through the doors, I saw a familiar face across the room. It was my son. He wasn't working. He wasn't busy. He wasn't stuck in traffic. He was sitting at a beautifully decorated table with his wife and her mother. There were candles on the table, a large cake, expensive flowers, and several wrapped presents. They were celebrating something. I stood there frozen. My son looked up and saw me. His smile disappeared. Immediately, his wife turned around, and her mother stopped talking. For several seconds, nobody said a word. Finally, my son stood up. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I looked at the table and then back at him. "We're too busy. I came here for dinner. You told me you." His face turned red. He started explaining that it wasn't what I thought. He said his wife's mother was visiting from out of town and they had planned the dinner weeks ago. He said he didn't want to disappoint her. I listened quietly, then I asked him one question. So disappointing me was okay. Nobody answered. I didn't yell. I didn't insult his wife. I didn't make a scene. I simply looked at my son and said, "You could have told me the truth. I would have understood. What hurts isn't that you chose them tonight. What hurts is that you made me believe I wasn't worth telling the truth to." Then I walked away. I expected him to let me leave. Instead, he followed me outside. He grabbed my arm and said, "Dad, please wait." I turned around. For the first time that evening, I saw tears in his eyes. He told me the dinner wasn't actually for his wife's mother. The cake wasn't for her either. The restaurant reservation had originally been made for me. The gifts on the table were gifts he had bought for my 70th birthday. He had planned a surprise celebration, but his wife had insisted that her mother should be included because she was leaving town the next morning. Somewhere along the way, my son became afraid of disappointing his wife and her family. Instead of being honest with me, he lied. My son looked at me and whispered, "I thought you would understand, Dad." I told him I would have understood almost anything, but I shouldn't have had to discover the truth by accident. He started crying. Then he said something I will never forget. "I was so worried about making everyone else happy that I forgot the person I was supposed to be celebrating." I looked back through the restaurant window. His wife was standing there crying too. Her mother had lowered her head, clearly embarrassed by what had happened. For a moment, I thought about walking away forever, but then I remembered something my own father once told me: people will disappoint you. What matters is what they do after they realize they've hurt you. So I went back inside. We sat down together. The cake was brought to the table. My son pushed it toward me and said, "Happy birthday, Dad." I smiled and blew out the candles, but before we ate, I raised my glass and said, "At 70, I've learned something. Being loved isn't about always being chosen first. It's about being respected enough to hear the truth." That night, my son apologized not because I demanded it, but because he finally understood what his lie had cost him. We didn't magically fix everything over one dinner. Real relationships don't work that way. But something important changed between us. He stopped taking my presence for granted, and I stopped pretending that being someone's parent meant accepting every kind of treatment. The next morning, my son called me before I even had breakfast. He said, "Dad, can I come over?" I said yes, because sometimes the greatest birthday gift isn't a present, a cake, or an expensive dinner. Sometimes it's watching someone you love finally realize your words before it's too late. And if there's one thing I learned on my 70th birthday, it's this: never confuse being understanding with allowing yourself to be forgotten.